More like the real you, Sue Ann or Rose?
Boy, you know, Alan used to be asked that question, Alan Ludden, and he always would say, because Sue Ann was a rotten person, but a wonderful home economist, and he'd always, true, and he'd always say, Betty and Sue Ann are the exact same person, except Betty can't cook. And I heard it so often that I believed it. But I see so much of Betty and realize how much of Betty is in Rose. She thinks everything's going to have a happy ending. Rose is so naive that people can say terrible things to her and about her, but the words all sound so nice, and if they say it nicely, she thinks, oh, that's swell. And I really think, and I tell long, boring stories, I really think there's a lot of Rose in Betty. I think Rose is more...
You like Rose better?
I like Rose. You know, she's not dumb, she's just dim. She just marches a different drum. I mean, she takes everything literally, the exact meaning of the word. If you said I could eat a horse, she'd call the SPCA. You know, that she takes everything.
It's ridiculous. I mean, here we sit, calmly eating our bran flakes, when there could be a dead man in the house. I'll go. She's very brave.
Boy, I'll say.
I want someone to come with me.
I'll go. I'm from Sicily. What's the big deal?
He's not dead. But he'll wish he was when those two barge in on him.
Who is he?
His name is Al.
No, I mean, what's he do?
He imports diamonds.
Oh, damn, I hope he's not dead. He bought the farm.
What farm?
Rosie's dead.
No.
Yes.
Oh, my God. The poor man. And with a new farm and everything. Poor Rose. You mean, poor girl.
Did you meet Alan Ludden on the Password show, and if so, what was your first date?
I met him, it was the third week of the show in 1961, and the show had been on, as I say, it had just opened, and it opened as a big success. I was booked on it. I came back from California to do it. It was out of New York at that time. So I met him very briefly. We played the game, did 5 shows together, and he was so friendly and so nice, and I went back to California. That summer, our agents booked us each into a play, Critics' Choice, to play on Cape Cod and then on up into Maine. And so Alan made a trip to California. He said, I think as long as we're going to play the show together, it's playing at a small theater near here, we ought to go and see it together. I thought he was married. I didn't know he was single, fool that I was. So we went out that night. We went to see the show, and I was happily going with somebody else. I mean, very steadily for 4 years. The first night that we opened, my friend came in to see the show, and there was a kissing scene at the end of the first scene. And it went on maybe a little longer than you would think. And from the third row, I heard Phil Cochran, and he was the first one who realized there was more there than I knew or than Alan knew. And within that 3 weeks, he started saying, will you marry me, instead of hello in the morning. And I laughed him off. It took me a year to get smart and marry that man. I was out of my mind. I would have had another whole extra year.
Hello, Betty.
Hello, Alan.
What are your plans for the summer, Betty?
Well, I'm going to do some... What did you have in mind, Al? Yes, sir.
You're recognized when you walk in someplace, someone goes, hey, Betty White. You know, what is the most embarrassing moment as being recognized you've had? I mean, you walked into a place you didn't want to be recognized, and someone said, oh, that's Betty White.
I try to stay out of those places. Yes, over here? Right there in the middle?
Of all the famous people that you've ever worked with, who did you enjoy working with the most?
Of all the famous people, well, I have to say Mary Tyler Moore, because she was my best friend before I ever got on the show, and she still is my best friend. And watching Mary work is just a pleasure in itself, because she she set such a standard for everybody around her. She and, when she was married to Grant Tinker and my husband, Alan Ludden, were best friends for, well, in fact, it was Grant who brought Alan to New York from Connecticut. And the first people Alan ever took me to meet when he was getting serious about me were Mary and Grant. I always accused him of trying to get their approval first to make sure they approved. But I have to say Mary, because everybody measured up to Mary's standard. She was always so precisely on time and so good at what she did and asking no quarter. She was never the star of the show. She was just one of the guys.
Joanne, why do you want to be on our show? You're the happy homemaker.
Yes. And the happy homemaker is very unhappy.
About what?
I have done that show every day since July 1963. Do you know what that means, Mary? It means I've been smiling for 11 years.
I never thought of it that way.
I want a job where I don't have to smile. I don't like smiling all the time. It's against my nature.
Joanne, you're smiling.
I am. Right now?
Uh-huh.
I can't tell anymore. I'm in a rut, Mary. Everything I do is mechanical. I just go through the motions.
Oh, well, Sue Ann, come on. Everyone feels that way about her job sometimes.
But I can't pretend anymore. I've cooked it all. I've eaten it all. I've cleaned it, trimmed it, and stuffed it twice. Yes, over here.
I want to know, what is your secret for being so beautiful? You keep yourself beautiful.
I think it's your eye doctor, but thank you for your vote of confidence. I appreciate that so much. Yes, back there?
On the Golden Girls, you wear such terrific outfits. Do you pick them out? Do you have a choice, or do they pick them for you?
No, we have a wonderful lady, Judy Evans, who's our wardrobe coordinator. And she makes all of these clothes. She makes a lot of Rue's clothes, and then she goes out and shops for me. And mine come off the rack, but I think she does... Let's face it, I come off the rack. Yes.
I love the way you play Rose, but if you could pick one of the other characters to play, who would you play, and who would you have play Rose?
You know, it was funny when Susan Harris wrote the script and they were putting the show together. Jay Sandrich was the director, and we got a letter saying this project was in the works, and they would send a script as soon as one was written. And they were kind of writing Blanche for me. And Jay Sandrich, who had directed all the Mary Tyler Moore shows, was also going to direct this. And it was Jay in his wisdom who said, if we have Betty playing Blanche, another neighborhood nymphomaniac, in their wisdom, the audience is going to equate that with Sue Ann Nivens, and it's like playing the same thing. So why don't we have Rue play Blanche and Betty play Rose? Well, we knew who Blanche was, and we knew who Dorothy was, and we knew who Sophia was, but somehow Rose was sort of an amorphous character that it was difficult to pin down. And again, it was Jay, and I thank him every time I see him, who said, she's a complete innocent. Just play her totally innocent, not dumb, but totally innocent, and it'll work. So I try to remember that. Sometimes I get the innocence lapping over into dumb, but she's not really. If that happens, it's my fault, because Rose isn't dumb. She just marches to a different drum.